I will be talking about a use case, particularly use case within the financial industry, so banking and finance. And I've been working with a financial organization for quite a while, and I looked at the IT environment, and I must say that subjective view, but when I really looked at them in detail, they operate within extremely complex IT environments. Their IT teams or departments face multiple demands from multiple angles. And those angles might be, for example, meeting the needs of business operations or supporting advanced technology. So they've got a demand to stay on top of the high tech, ensuring the seamless experiences for end users. What that means is that they not only are looking after their employees, but they have to also pay lots of attention to their customers outside their organization. And with that, they need to also comply with the stringent regulatory requirements. And these demands quite often overlap, so they're creating additional layer of complexity. So from security perspective, IT teams are under pressure to balance these demands without slowing the pace of for the business. So their role, their IT department role, is to remain dynamic, flexible, and responsive to evolving challenges. So it is a task that would be nearly impossible without attribute-based access control. Some of the use cases what I have highlighted or listed over here highlights the scenario where traditional access control methods fall short. I'm talking about, for example, role-based access control. That's where ABAC comes in and provides a necessary agility and a precision to meet these challenges. So before we dive in to a particular use case, I would like to just paint the picture and then take you through some of these use cases, what you see here on this slide. So starting with a risk-based access, that's where we have a risk as a key factor for ensuring secure access. When we're talking open banking, it's a collaborative platform where banks enable third party to access their data and information. And they do that through exposing APIs for mobile banking and then CRM. So ABAC role in this case is to control API access based on user roles, application context, and security attributes. Open banking then opens door to innovation, so where there is a need for tailored approaches for high-value clients, so VIP banking. Beyond VIP accounts, for example, the bank then needs ensure flexibility in approvals in secure way. And this flexibility ties into a concept of granting access only when necessary. So just in time, where time becomes the attribute which can be easily handled by attribute-based access control. When we're talking about compliance and regulations, whilst all these operations, what I have mentioned, run smoothly, the regulatory compliance is the key driver for access control policies. So the ABAC role really is to dynamically enforce access based on user jurisdiction, so different country, data sensitivity, and compliance requirements. Finally, we've got insurance of transparency and accountability, where we need to have a look at how ABAC supports auditing and monitoring and helps to identify who has access to what and under what conditions. So this kind of completes the journey or paints the picture of how ABAC can address the full spectrum of challenges in financial organizations, from foundational security to advanced regulatory needs. There are lots of use cases over here I have touched on. So I have picked one, which is the risk-based access control, or we're talking more about adapting security to context in real time. As I had at the beginning, financial institutions face a constant challenges. So when it comes to risk-based access, they are balancing seamless customer experiences with robust security measures. and especially when these transaction or access requests come with high risk factors. So in our scenario, the risk-based access using ABAC for a dynamic access and respond to risk indicators in real time. So let's have a look at the scenario. A customer logs into their online banking account from an unrecognized device in a foreign country and attempts high value transfer to a foreign account. I must admit, I had to actually write it down because it is a sentence, it is a scenario full of red flags. So it's quite difficult to remember. But even if it's full of red flags, it can be a legitimate scenario. So imagine, for example, when you are interested of purchasing a property somewhere in a foreign country, and in order to put a deposit down, you go and have a look at the property, you inspect the property, you go over there and you like the property and you put down the deposit, and then that means a high value transaction appears. Means get executed. This type of scenario raises a potential red flags, as I said, related to both unauthorized access and a financial crime, such as fraud or money laundering. So we've got a scenario, we've got a big scenario over here packed with red flags. So how do we handle this scenario with policy? And the natural language policy would like deny high value transfer from unrecognized device in the foreign countries. So that's the policy. Now you wonder, where is the ABAC? How the ABAC applies? How does it work? So let's take a closer look at ABAC in action. The system, as I said, we already established that receives the request for high value transaction, and then it evaluates multiple attributes for logging and transaction. And those attributes are, for example, device fingerprint. Is this a recognized device? Geolocation. Is the login coming from a high risk or unusual location? Transaction details. What is the amount? What is the currency? And what is the destination of the transfer? So we've got 3 attributes. You can use multiple attributes for handling this. For example, this scenario. You can also include user behavior. Attribute-based access control uses attributes to describe a context. The attributes form the foundation of the policy. Policy then evaluates a request from a user or application to access certain resources or information. So you can use pretty much any information which is important for your business or your application to make a decision. So if, for example, information like, does this align with a customer typical activity, is important for you to make a decision, then user behavior becomes one of the attributes in this group. But for this scenario, I will stick to 3 attributes, which is the device fingerprint, the geolocation, and the transaction details. So based on these attributes, the ABAC engine, in this case, Axiomatic's decision service, evaluates the risk level in real time and enforces adaptive security response. So, for example, if the login or transaction deems to be a low risk, then it proceeds seamlessly. If it's medium risk, the system may require or request additional verification, such as MFA, multi-factor authentication. For high risk scenarios, the system could block the transaction and alert the bank's fraud team for a manual review. So in the end, attribute-based access control provides a context-aware decision-making process and ensures that customers can securely access their accounts and perform legitimate transactions without unnecessary friction. So it's frictionless. Potential fraud and high-risk activities are intercepted early. And of course, regulatory compliance is maintained through real-time verification and traceable audit trails.
I just wanted to highlight a couple things from this. So you did a great job, Martin, calling out sort of more of that legacy approach at the beginning. The legacy approach, or how authorization is typically handled through role-based access controls, it becomes very, very much a binary decision. Do I have access? Do I not have access? And if you've been granted access, there's no controls over it. There's no fine-grained controls to say, okay, well, you can transfer money, great, but can you transfer money outside of the country? Can you transfer money if you're using a new device? And what axiomatics will do, especially with an attribute-based access control, it makes for a fine-grained decision that's no longer black and white or binary. It gives you that flexibility to both secure the end user, secure the customer in this case, but also at the same time, you're enabling them to have the right level of security, but protect them at the same time.
In the end, it takes under the consideration the context. As we said, attributes describe the context. You can use any attributes which are important, I repeat again, for your business to make a decision. So it is not a black and white decision anymore, particularly if you are, for example, going back to the scenario what we have described, where you are in a foreign country and you need to put a deposit for the purchase of the house. You need to make it very quickly. Imagine that suddenly, if it's black and white, it gets stopped, and then you have to wait. No, you can't make the decision. You can't make the transfer of the deposit, and then you find yourself in a situation where you might lose the house where you like. Talking about frictionless, that's one of the most important for financial industry. User centricity, to making sure that the user has a experiences and then doesn't get stopped with unnecessary security checks with the financial systems or online banking is very fast. And obviously there is the third aspect when we're talking about the compliance, because if there is a need for compliance, or in making sure that you are compliant with the different regulations. I was mentioning, for example, the jurisdictions. So I'm making, let's say we are in the European Union, so people or customers in the European Union should have a different transaction policies to people or customers are from outside the European Union. So the transactions are slightly different and then the rules are different. But this can be all handled through a policy, depending on one attribute, i.e. where you are located. Are you located within the European Union or outside the European Union? And then things like that. It can also take attributes about the credentials of the user, for example. What is their nationality? Are they European citizen or they are not European citizen? And then the policy will then execute it and then dynamically respond to the request.